Alright, so yes, so the third part of the lecture here is actually on the other two type of estimates. So definitive estimates and detailed estimates. Okay, so definitive estimates basically is about usually it's actually a definition kind of estimates. It's actually quite accurate. It's actually quite detailed, and this will require the full work breakdown structure. And this stage normally we will use definitive as the consultant sort of estimates, meaning that you don't really know the workflow and how the detail of the workflow is, but you already know the amount of work and the type of work that is going to go into the project, and it's very clear, everything is there. So you employ what we call an all-up rate. All-up rate or all-inclusive kind of rate is basically definitive estimates whereby you have your um, this sorry I'm maybe blur. So yeah, whereby you already know the rate itself actually encompass labor, material, machineries, everything. So you have one rate. So it's like if I say concrete pouring or the concrete part of this particular project is like 250 meter cube, 250 ringgit per meter cube, or 300 ringgit per meter cube for grade 25, plus pouring 30 ringgit per meter cube, plus there's labor, for example, and machineries is maybe 60 ringgit per meter cube, and then plus subcontractor or anything, supervision, everything. So you actually have a 700 per meter cube kind of rate, okay, or 650 per meter cube kind of rate, or 550 per meter cube kind of rate. So then you have a total for the particular project. You have about 1000 meter cube. So you take 1000 meter cube, you times by 550, 600, 650, or 700, whatever your all up rate is. Okay, so then you do that for every component of the work. So for example, pipeline is going to be laying, is going to be inclusive of laying the pipe, the workmen and the machinery, the excavator, everything all operate. So normally these all operate are actually available, and you need to work on an all operate as well. Actually, you need to combine the all operate and work out all operate, because I mean, you could actually divide into different categories, of things. It's also okay, but it's just that no matter how detailed you do it, because you do not know the workflow or the sequence of the activity, it's only an estimation. So you really cannot have timeline inside this particular session here, you see. So as long as we start to have a timeline there to merge with the timeline and the schedules, that sort of line, then you are looking at detailed estimates already. So definitive estimate is very useful at the end of at the end pre-tendering stage. So with preliminary design, is parametric still. Some people can actually for your IDP, you could actually employ definitive estimates as well after your preliminary design, but yeah, it's up to you. But so I would say the order of magnitude, an approximate estimate, is going to be for conceptual studies. Some people, if you use parametric studies for conceptual studies, it's also okay, but usually we use it for preliminary studies, whereby things like several components. And then definitive estimates is actually before you move into tendering, because the client will actually tell you after the design is done, they will actually ask you for an estimate, and this estimates is actually a combination. I mean, like because we still haven't get a proposal or the tender rate from the consultant, so this is a definitive one. So you cannot get a full detailed estimates yet at this point in time. So I hope you know how to use this. So it's an after prelim. If you apply if your preliminary design is pretty sure, you could actually use definitive estimates. But again, most of the prelim design will not be so complete as well. So definitive estimates is actually when the design are completed, but it's actually pre-tender stage. Is a guideline for the client to actually see, and also to a guide also to see whether the contractor later on, the quotation will actually be close to the definitive estimates. So usually in JKR we will have like in a lot of this government agency, you would actually have a definitive estimates is worked out by the consultant, and then when tender starts to come in, they will actually calculate the standard deviation for this particular definitive estimates, and then find the closest, the people who are actually within that curve, within that mean curve, and then not outside the standard deviation. They will take out those people who are outside the standard deviation, and the mean will be the definitive estimates. So then you see the revolving, the estimates that the consultant that they will pick will be revolving around that definitive estimates. So it is a very important estimate to look into, actually. Okay, so that is the gist of definitive estimates. For detailed estimates, is actually the most important thing ever, for engineering project, whether it's done by the contractor or the consultant. But you need to know the workflow, the work sequence, the parallel, the parallel activities, the sequential activities. All this needs to be very, very clear before you can actually do that. So basically, the schedule needs to be ready. It's a complete planning of resources, scheduling, like all your resources are ready, the scheduling are ready, and then you apply detailed estimates. And usually contractor will do that for tendering purpose because of certain reasons that is based on competitiveness. You cannot actually afford to lose a tender based on a very slim percentage. Okay, so it's actually a very important stage, and this is really, really a pre-budget stage. So whatever detailed estimates is produced by the contractor after negotiation, after talking, after a lot of ding-donging, this will be your budget. So actually it is the one most important item, detailed estimates, in the engineering arena. Okay, so I'll explain to you more. So these are some of the writing on preliminary estimates, definitive estimates, and some of the way of how we do detailed estimates. And usually detailed estimates is actually you prepare. So we talk about detailed estimates, you prepare it from the work plan, the performance, the calculation of labor, machineries, equipment, materials, every single component. So this is where your Excel work file will come into picture. So your resources now, after your you keep a certain level of resources on site, and then you need to be look into your schedule because you're keeping that amount of resources on site now, and then move on and actually look into taking that schedule and apply that like a blueprint onto the costing bit of things. Okay, so here, like, you will have a labor category, and that labor will have how many days of working and all that. I will show you an example in our first day lecture on how to come up with a detailed estimates. But having to say that you need to have all your resources, especially after your resources leveling, and after you plan your resources from the curve and all that. Then after that, you replan your schedule, you put in your risk estimation and all that, and then that final schedule is the one that you will use with the resources list that you're going to produce from all your exercise that you've done actually for time planning. Then you can use it for cost, and that's one by one. You need to split up into different categories of costs, and then from there work down on the rate and the rate of the rate is in how many how much is it per meter cube, how much is it that the workers is charging per km pipe or per meter run. All this is actually rates that is available in the industry, so you can base it on standard rates actually. Okay, right. So why is it that, okay, I'll do this in another slides, in another recording, otherwise it's going to be too short. Okay, so usually contractor will do the detailed estimates. Okay, and I think what else do I have here? Let me see.